Once there was a man who cut stone. He was very good at his job. The stone that he cut was not just used to build roads and bridges, but to make the most beautiful temples and palaces in Japan. He knew exactly how to place his chisel and strike it with his hammer so that the stone broke exactly straight and true. Still, there were times when he hated his work. He was out there, whether it was pouring rain, whether it was blazing hot, whether it was windy and cold, chipping away at that stone. And one day he threw down his tools and he said, "Why do I have to be chipping away at this mountain all the time? Why can't I have pleasure and amusement as other people do?" And when he stopped talking, he heard the sound of music and many feet, and when he looked, there was a great procession coming down the mountain road. In the beginning, the musicians making what he had heard. In the back, swaying dancers making a beautiful ending. Shining armor-polished soldiers on one side, on the other side, servants. And in the center, the reason for the whole procession, the emperor on a shining black horse with a gown of purple and gold at his neck and his wrist. To keep him from the sun, a red canopy. Saku the stonecutter watched until this procession was out of sight. And he said, "Oh, if only I could know what it felt like, just for 5 minutes, to be the emperor." And a voice spoke somewhere around him. It said, "Saku, be the emperor." And so Saku felt himself astride that horse. There was the music and the dancers and the soldiers and the servants, but some of the musicians hit wrong notes. Some of the soldiers hadn't polished their armor, and some of the servants were whispering, and some of the dancers were clumsy, and he was hot, even though that canopy was over his head, and he could see through the canopy the sun. "Oh," he said, "there's something stronger than the emperor. I wish I knew what it felt like, just for 5 minutes, to be the sun." And the voice said, "Saku, be the sun." So there he was, shining and fiery in the sky. But he didn't know how to be the sun. He shone and shone and shone until all the humans and the animals sought shelter, and the plants began to droop. And then the streams dried up, and great cracks opened in the earth, and even the rivers were dry. And the people begged for rain. And then a little cloud came and put itself between Saku the sun and the earth, and Saku the cloud, the sun, said, "There's something stronger than the sun. I'd like to be that cloud." And you know what the voice said. So Saku felt all his fires going out, and instead he was light and fluffy, and at first as white as my sweater. But then moisture began to cling to that cloud. It began to be gray and heavy, and then so full that it split open with lightning, and thunder rolled across Japan, and the rain began to pour down on the earth, and the people felt it on their faces. But again, Saku didn't know how to rain. He kept raining. First the cracks were filled, then the streams, then the rivers, and everything was overflowing. And then everything was washed away. Houses, people, even the great temples and palaces of Japan. But Saku, the cloud, saw only left the mountain where he had cut stone. And he said, There's something stronger than the cloud. Make me into that mountain. And the voice said, be the mountain, Saku. So he sank heavy, heavy down into the earth, feet and miles under, and he surveyed the emptiness that was all of Japan until he saw a little speck. That little speck was coming toward him. That little speck had arms and legs and a head and a body, and as it came closer, he saw it held tools, one in each hand. He felt little spidery feet coming up his mountain chest. He felt the edge of a chisel. And then he felt a trembling through all his stony mountain body when the hammer struck the chisel. And Saku the mountain said, "Ah, me. There's something stronger than the mountain. If only I, that man might be." And the voice spoke for the last time and it said, "Saku, be yourself. A human being once again." Saku brushed the stone dust from his face and his robes, picked up his hammer and his chisel, and this time when he struck the chisel, he knew how strong he really was. And he never wished to be anyone but himself again.